Jerry Lee Lewis, fans, peers pay their last respects at Mississippi Funeral Home. Show Caption Hide Caption, Jerry Lee Lewis was as big a star as anyone else. Jerry Phillips at the late singer's visit. Jerry Lee Lewis's visit was at the Hernando Funeral Home in Mississippi. Jerry Phillips, son of Sun Records founder Sam Phillips, spoke about the late singer. Padilla and Gina Butkovich, Memphis Commercial Appeal. This is our These words, written vertically, one letter after another, were printed on a ribbon that hung from the single flower arrangement placed on the coffin that held the mortal remains of Jerry Lee Lewis on Thursday night. The coffin was inside the Hernando Funeral Home on US 51 in DeSoto County, Mississippi. Out there, Lewis was still indomitable, even immortal, in the memories and assessments of hundreds of fans, friends, fellow musicians, and others, some in suits and ties, some with tattoos and rockabilly pompadours. The rock and roll pioneer who attacked his 87 years of life as he attacked the keys of the piano, with passion, with playfulness, with recklessness, with violence and compassion. Legacy of Jerry Lee Lewis. Rock and roll pioneer Jerry Lee Lewis dies at 87. It's as big as Elvis dying. I wasn't alive at the time, but it's the same kind of emotional experience for us, said Kyler Campbell, 27, from Nesbitt, Mississippi, wearing cuffed blue jeans and a t-shirt. It's adorned with many photos of Jerry Lee Lewis at the height of the 1950s craze. A lot of guys like Elvis and Carl Perkins knew these guys were doing great, but Jerry Lee knew he was great, said Jerry Phillips, son of Sam Phillips, founder of Sun Records, which Lewis cut. Star-making rock and roll hits like Whole Lotta Shakin' Going On and Great Balls of Fire. Speaking in the present tense as if Lewis wasn't real yet, Phillips said, "I've known him since I was 8 years old, we've had many experiences together, and he's a great guy. It could be bad, it could be tough, it could be tough, it could be great, it could be all those things." Jerry Lee Lewis, celebrities commemorate rock legend with influence and inspiration. Lewis, who had been increasingly weak and unhealthy in recent weeks, at his home in DeSoto County on October 28. Thursday's public visit to Hernando is for Lewis neighbors and Memphis music associates to pay their respects to the artist known as the before a more elaborate funeral at 11 a.m. Saturday in Faraday, Lewis' birthplace, Louisiana. It was an opportunity for the chief steward will be Lewis's cousin, renowned publisher Jimmy Swaggart, himself no stranger to scandal and the tussle between heaven and hell. Some mourners arrived about 3 hours before the funeral home doors opened at 5 p.m. Home addresses written in the guest book included England, Ireland, and the Netherlands. They lined up the front of the building that ran parallel to the street. On the other side was Hernando's historic Velvet Cream Burger and Shake Trolley restaurant, a made-to-order place for the next rockabillys, and adjacent to the funeral home was the Vampire Penguin, a shaved ice shop that offered its owner what he was offering. Krista Durtsky called it a signature Jerry Lee Lewis snow, vanilla topped with atomic fireball candy. As the doors opened, the queue curved past the office and into a large room with cream-colored walls. The closed coffin was placed on a coffee table in the center of the room, with flower arrangements on either side and 2 large posters on the easel. One, a photograph of a gray-haired Lewis at the piano, the other advertised the image of Lewis at the Viva Las Vegas Auto Show in 2011. Take my boogie, it keeps you on track / then the sacroiliac starts to vibrate and move. The songs weren't divine, but they were sacred music to the people in line. Next to the coffin, every mourner is greeted by Jerry Lee's 7th wife, Judith Coughlin Lewis, daughter Tiffany McKinnon, and Jerry Lee's son, Jerry Lee Lewis III. "We may have aged, but we had a great time," said Ms. Lewis. Guitarist Kenny Lovelace was joined by some of Lewis' longtime musical colleagues, people who played, like a brother, with Jerry Lee for many years. When he accompanied Lewis on Jerry Lee's debut recording for The Sun, Crazy Arms, young drummer J.M., "I'm having a hard time getting over this," Van Eaton said. "It was so sad when the other guys I worked with, Charlie Rich, Johnny Cash, but I'm having a hard time with that," said Van Eaton, 85. "We arrived at the same time. It's kind of heartbreaking to realize that that era is over. I think I'm the last of Sun's primary players. You're the last one standing now," said Jerry Phillips, referring to Lewis's assertive 2006 album, Last Man Standing. Lovelace, 86, who lives in Franklin, Tennessee, played guitar in Lewis Band and Lewis Records for 54 years. You get to know someone pretty well in 54 years, on and off stage, Lovelace said. Working with Lewis, he said the concept of a determined list was more or less theoretical. Sometimes we didn't know what to do, it would take off. We got used to it. This unpredictability helps explain the dedication of some of Lewis fans, including Darren and Daniel White, a father and son from Birmingham, England, who have traveled the world to attend Lewis shows for close to 30 years. I've seen him 60 times, that's not bad for a 34-year-old, Daniel said. The person I was most excited about was Jerry Lee, said Darren, 54, who describes himself as a former rock and roll DJ. Their passion for the Earth's music was so evident and their presence at the concerts so frequent that they eventually became friends with Lewis and his camp. The two have flown from England to visit Hernando and will then travel to Faraday, where Daniel will be a coat bearer. From the archives, Rock and Roll's Last Man, Jerry Lee Lewis looks back. Memphis Music History, Bluff City Bicentennial, 200 Memphis Music Memories. 81-year-old Judd Calkins, St. Louis to Hernando. He said he plans to come home every Thursday night. I didn't know why I came here, but I wanted to pay my respects. I listened to my Sun Records 45s every morning before I went to school, said a high school graduate in the class of 1959. Jerry Lee has captured my imagination like no one else has. Tyler Campbell, who accompanied his wife, 28-year-old Juliette, a native of France, said he grew up in Nesbitt, just below Jerry Lee's house. Home every morning on the way to school. It fueled the flames of the intimacy fandom. I saw him at a red light once, he was in the passenger seat, someone else was driving. I looked at him and waved, he waved too. And that was the #1 coolest experience of my life. Jim Holt, president of Memphis at the May International Festival, Kevin Kane, president of Memphis Tourism, and Lynn Sittler, film commissioner for Memphis and Shelby County. Former Memphis Mayor Willie W. Harrington said he was good friends with Lewis and had recently visited him at his home. His sense of humor and style was one of a kind, said Harrington. Jerry is cool. The visit was open to the public until 8 p.m., but by 7 p.m. almost everyone in line made their way to the funeral home. Some mourners continued to wander the parking lot and share their stories. One of the greatest talents ever left the planet and Earth will not be the same, Phillips said. I really mean that. The world will never be the same. I hope to see him one day in heaven, on the other side, Lovelace said. Commercial Appeals correspondent Gina Butkovich contributed to this report.